If you are currently staring at a blinking cursor on a blank document while your brain is busy calculating the logistics of starting a boutique honey farm in rural France, then we need to have a very serious, very scientific chat about why you are failing at being a human being today. You aren't lazy, and despite what your high school track coach might have told you, you don't lack grit. As your resident mind decoder, I'm here to tell you that you are actually a victim of an ancient microscopic civil war occurring inside your skull. A conflict between a high-tech CEO who is out of gas and a grumpy caveman who is terrified of your to-do list. If our previous conversations were about realizing your brain is fried and addicted to cheap dopamine, then today is the day we stop admiring the problem and start performing a tactical strike on the resistance. We are going to deploy a 2-minute neuroscience hack designed to kill procrastination before it even has the chance to put on its pajamas and settle in for a 12-hour Netflix binge. For those of us who identify as introverts, multitaskers, or scanners, procrastination isn't just about putting things off. It's a high-resolution simulation of failure. Because your brain is naturally tuned for far transfer and deep internal processing, you don't just look at a task like clean the garage. Instead, your brain runs a vivid 4K IMAX simulation of the entire process: the dust mites, the heavy lifting, the emotional labor of deciding whether to throw away a high school yearbook, and the inevitable realization that you need to buy more storage bins, which leads to an hour-long research project on the best modular shelving units available in the Western Hemisphere. By the time you've finished the simulation, your brain is already exhausted. It has experienced the fatigue of the work without actually doing any of the work. This is the current pain of the polymath. Your imagination is so powerful that it makes your tasks look like towering, fire-breathing monsters, triggering what we call an amygdala hijack. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the neurobiological architecture of the struggle. You have two main players in this game. First, there is the prefrontal cortex, the CEO we've discussed before. This is the logical, forward-thinking part of your brain that wants you to be a successful, M-shaped professional with a clean garage and a finished novel. But the prefrontal cortex is energy expensive and slow to boot up. On the other side, you have the limbic system, the ancient, emotional, caveman part of your brain. The limbic system is fast, powerful, and has one very simple goal: keep you safe and comfortable right now. To your limbic system, a difficult or boring task isn't just an item on a list, it's a threat to your current state of comfort. It perceives the friction of starting a task as a signal of danger. When the limbic system wins, it triggers the fight, flight, or freeze response. Since you can't fight your taxes and you can't run away from your own house, you freeze. You sit on the sofa, paralyzed by the choice, and eventually you default to the easiest, most dopamine-rich path available: the infinite scroll. This is where the neuroscience hack comes in. We need a way to bypass the limbic system's security sensors. We need to smuggle the task past the caveman before he notices we're trying to do something productive. In the world of physics, there is a concept called activation energy, the minimum amount of energy required to start a chemical reaction. In neuropsychology, your brain has a similar threshold. The bigger the task, the higher the activation energy, and the more likely your amygdala will flag it as a threat. But here is the secret back door. The brain's threat detection system has a blind spot for anything that takes less than 2 minutes. When you tell your brain, "I am not going to write the whole report, I'm just going to open the file and write one sentence for 2 minutes," you are performing a biological Trojan Horse. You are lowering the activation energy so significantly that the limbic system doesn't feel the need to sound the alarm. For the multitasker, this is especially crucial because your working memory is often cluttered with open loops. Every time you procrastinate, you are leaving an app running in the background of your mind, leaking cognitive fuel and contributing to that fried feeling. By committing to just 2 minutes, you are giving your prefrontal cortex a low-barrier victory. This small win triggers a tiny, controlled release of earned dopamine, the expensive stuff that sustains your focus rather than crashing it. You move from the basal ganglia autopilot of avoidance into a state of neuroplastic engagement. You aren't fighting your brain anymore. You are gently recalibrating its momentum. The trick isn't to work harder, it's to make starting so ridiculously easy that your brain can't find a reason to say no. You are essentially hacking your own dopamine threshold, proving to your nervous system that the monster isn't actually a monster, it's just a task, and you are in control.
The beauty of this neurological sleight of hand is that once you've smuggled the task past your internal border patrol, a secondary biological mechanism kicks in that makes staying in the work significantly easier than starting it was. This is the moment where we leverage a phenomenon called the Zeigarnik Effect, named after the same Russian psychologist who studied waiters and their uncanny memories for unpaid bills. Her research revealed that the human brain experiences a state of high-fidelity cognitive tension when it perceives a task as started but incomplete. By engaging for just 2 minutes, you aren't just doing work, you are intentionally opening a neurological loop. Your brain, which previously saw the task as a threat to be avoided, now views it as a puzzle to be solved. The caveman in your head stops screaming about the danger and starts nagging you for a resolution. It's like hearing the first 3 notes of a familiar song and being physically unable to relax until you hear the rest of the melody. You have effectively turned your brain's own OCD tendencies into a productivity engine. For the introverted multitasker or the high-output scanner, this shift is a complete game changer because it addresses the core issue of the mental leak. We often feel exhausted not because we are doing too much, but because we have 50 open tabs in our brain, all representing tasks we've thought about but never touched. Each of these unstarted tasks acts like a background app on a smartphone, slowly draining your metabolic battery and contributing to that pervasive sense of brain lag. When you apply the 2-minute hack, you are essentially hitting force quit on the avoidance software and rebooting your system into a state of focused execution. You move from a state of thinking about doing, which consumes an enormous amount of glucose in the prefrontal cortex, to a state of doing, which is governed by the much more efficient basal ganglia. You are no longer wasting energy on the friction of indecision, you are gliding on the momentum of action. Now let's talk about the earned dopamine that follows this tiny victory. Unlike the cheap dopamine you get from an infinite scroll, which is erratic, unearned, and leads to a violent crash on your neurological seesaw, the dopamine released when you finish a 2-minute commitment is a stabilizer. It signals to your reward system that the effort resulted in a positive outcome. This tiny chemical hit strengthens the neural pathways between your prefrontal cortex and your basal ganglia, making it slightly easier to start the next time. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. You are literally reprogramming your brain to view starting as a low-friction, high-reward activity. Over time, the resistance fades. You aren't trying to be disciplined anymore. You are simply someone who has a default setting for action. You are building the M-shaped pillars of your life not through monumental feats of willpower, but through a series of 2-minute skirmishes that you have rigged in your own favor. This hack also serves as a critical defense against the specialist trap. Many of us feel paralyzed because we think we have to commit to one path for the next 40 years, and the sheer weight of that decision makes us want to hide under the covers. But when you break your life down into 2-minute increments, the stakes evaporate. You aren't choosing a career, you are just researching one article for 2 minutes. You aren't becoming a marathon runner, you are just putting on your shoes and walking for 2 minutes. This lowers the cortisol spikes associated with your grand ambitions and allows your brain to stay in a state of cognitive ease. You are giving yourself permission to be a polymath in the small moments, which is the only way anyone ever becomes a polymath in the large ones. You are navigating the wicked learning environment of the 21st century by being more agile than your own anxiety. So, the next time you feel that heavy, familiar fog of procrastination settling over your desk, I want you to stop trying to willpower your way through it. I want you to look at that fire-breathing monster of a task and tell your brain a very specific lie. We are only doing this for 120 seconds. Set a timer if you have to. Negotiate with the caveman. Prove to your limbic system that the threat is an illusion. Once those 2 minutes are up, you have full biological permission to stop. But what you will likely find is that the friction is gone, the loop is open, and the CEO of your brain has finally returned to the office with a fresh cup of coffee and a clear plan. You aren't a procrastinator. You are just a high-performance machine that needs a low-barrier start. You have the neuroscience, you have the hack, and you have the permission to be messy as long as you are moving. The self-blame ends today. You aren't failing. You are just using the wrong manual for your brain. By lowering the activation energy and hacking your own reward system, you are reclaiming the focus that was hijacked by a world designed to keep you distracted. You are moving away from the dash-shaped life of shallow avoidance and toward the M-shaped life of deep, polymathic mastery. And to help you stay on this path, I've put together a resource called the Neuro-Momentum Audit, a simple framework to help you identify your highest friction tasks and build a custom 2-minute playbook to dismantle them. You can download it at the link below. It is time to stop pecking at the glass for random rewards and start building the future that only your unique, multifaceted mind can see. The world doesn't need more specialists who are too afraid to start. It needs scanners who have learned how to kill procrastination in 2 minutes flat. I am the Mind Decoder, and I will see you in the next one.